All right, let's talk about a word we all think we know, sin. It sounds so simple, right? But what does it actually mean? Because when you start to really pull at that thread, the whole concept can unravel in some pretty wild ways. And today, we're going to explore a really fascinating take on this whole idea.
So, I'm going to start with a question that, on the surface, sounds totally absurd. Is the simple, unconscious act of breathing a sin? Now hang with me here, because this isn't just some random question. It's the hook that can change how we look at this entire thing.
The logic behind that crazy question is actually surprisingly simple. If you define sin as killing, well, think about it. Every single breath you take, you're wiping out millions of tiny microorganisms. Every meal you eat, whether it's a salad or a steak, something had to die for you to live. So, if we stick to that definition, just existing is a non-stop cycle of committing sin.
So what happens when every single thing you do just to stay alive is considered a sin? What does that do to us psychologically? It creates a state of constant, inescapable guilt. You literally can't avoid sin, which means you can never, ever be free from that feeling that you're doing something wrong.
Now, according to the source for this explainer, this setup is no accident. This whole system of endless, unavoidable sin, it creates a dependency. If you're always feeling guilty, you're always going to need a place to go to feel better, right? A temple, a church, a mosque, somewhere to get absolution. It basically creates an eternal business model.
To really make this idea click, there's this great little story. It's a parable about a man named Shankaran Pillai and his life of absolute perfect goodness, which, believe it or not, created a pretty huge problem.
So picture this guy, Shankaran Pillai. He was the perfect citizen. I mean, from the day he was born to the day he died, his record was completely spotless. Not one lie, not one selfish act. So naturally, when he passed on, boom, straight to heaven. But this is where the story gets interesting. The angels at the front desk are totally stumped. They're looking through their whole system and they realize, wait a second, heaven is designed for sinners who've redeemed themselves. There are all these different levels of heaven based on how bad you were. But for a guy with zero bad deeds, there was literally no box to tick, no place for him.
So after a quick huddle, the angels come back with a proposal, a deal. They say, look, we'll send you back to Earth for just 3 hours. All you have to do is commit one bad deed. Just one. You do that, and we can put you in the highest level of heaven. You'll get the penthouse suite, ocean view, the whole deal.
Now Shankaran Pillai is in a real bind. He's never done anything wrong in his entire life. He has zero practice. So after an hour and a half of serious thought, he finally lands on adultery. He goes to his neighbor's house, a woman who'd always had a bit of a crush on him, and he does the one thing he believes will finally be his first sin.
But, and this is the punchline, as he's leaving, rushing to get back to die on time, the woman stops him, and she looks at him and says those fateful words. What he saw as his one ticket into heaven, his one great sin, she experienced as a profound act of kindness. He was totally trapped. He had accidentally committed yet another good deed.
And that story just perfectly highlights the whole point, doesn't it? Shankaran Pillai's goodness wasn't this natural, flowing thing. It was all based on a rigid set of rules he was following. So if just following the rules to be good leads you into a paradox like this, what's the other option? This brings us to the absolute core of this whole idea. It's the difference between two things. On one side, you have what we call morality. This is about suppressing your impulses, calculating your moves, and just following a strict list of rules. But on the other side, you have humanity. And this is a goodness that just flows out of you, naturally, from a deep sense of connection to life itself.
Yeah, to put it even more simply, morality is a checklist of don'ts. It's about holding yourself back. But true humanity, that's an expression of who you really are. It's not about trying to avoid being bad. It's about naturally being good.
So what is this state of humanity? The source material calls it being in tune with life. It's a state where you experience everyone and everything around you not as separate, but as a part of yourself, a real sense of oneness. And just think about what that really means. If you genuinely felt in your bones that another person was just an extension of you, would anyone have to teach you not to harm them? Would you need a rule book to tell you not to hurt yourself? No way! The right action just becomes your instinct. So, and this is really the mind-blowing conclusion. When you start to operate from this place of deep, fundamental connection, the entire framework of sin and virtue, it just falls away.
those labels become totally irrelevant because your actions are just naturally aligned with the well-being of everything around you.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. If you really truly felt that deep experiential connection to all of life, would you even need a concept of sin or a set of moral rules to guide you? Or would being good just be the natural way you live?